Hi, this is another DRC Demolition Whack video with few updates, especially on the sideboard, some slight changes. Okay, in the main board, one change I decided to for this time to test two Underworld Breach in deck. Breach is card that is currently very popular in the modern, and it's mostly played in the DRC decks, and I think the DRC is just a very good in this list. I really don't want to play it without it. It always feels as a card that I really want to have in a started hand. I really want to draw it for the looking for it for the entire game, and always one of the good top decks. And I just really don't want to. It's performing great. I think it mostly has been the best card in the deck, and I definitely don't want to play without it. Lightning Bolt has also been very good, just being able to kill some very important targets without no question asked, just 1 mana, 3 damage. Choose whatever you want with it, no artifacts to sack, anything, just 3 damage where you need it. Go face, go to creature, and it's 1 mana. I think it's very good here. Okay, so uh, still playing 3 Goblin Grenades as additional burn spells, so that has that kind of reach too with the 7 burn spells. Can also try to finish opponent in that way, and it happens quite often. So this time playing a 7 Kuldota Rebirth effects, 4 Gleeful Demolition, 3 Kuldota Rebirth. Gleeful Demolition is better because it can target opponent artifacts too. It's a bit riskier when targeting your own Memnite, because opponent can kill it in response, but otherwise it's just strictly better. And I wanted to fit in 2 Breach for this time, that's why I decided to cut 1 Rebirth and cut 1 Bushwhacker to try to fit it and test how it feels. Okay, so 7 Bushwhackers this time, as I said, to fit the 2 Breach. And I was Breach performed pretty good, but didn't draw it as quite as often as I wanted to test it. But few times I draw it was really good, and my opponent would usually concede in situations immediately when I cast it and have the kill in the graveyard. And that is it. Okay, so on the sideboard, I played a 2-2 split between Alpine Moon and Magus of the Moon to try to beat Amulet Titan, which is already a decent matchup because we play 4 Gleeful Demolition in the main, which can kill Amulet, and deck is just very aggressive. Playing additional Artifact Hate, Pitting Needles, especially for the Agmat matchups, but some other too. 1 Emrakul Hate for the middle matchup, 2 Orvars additional hate for the creativity matchup, and Jagata, of course, as companion. We are playing some 0 mana artifacts which you can use with the Gleeful Demolition, Kulota Rebirth on turn 1 to immediately get 3 tokens and start doing the bushwhacking thing on turn 2, which can be pretty sick, pretty aggressive, and rarely few decks maybe can deal with it. And okay, so that is it. Uh, we can now go watch the league I played. I ended up 4-1 in this league. I think last time I played in last was when I made the last video, and I think my last league also ended up 4-1. It's incredible that this budget deck uh, can do such good results all the time, and especially since it just costs maybe, I don't know, 50 to 100 dollars. Of course, maybe this my version is a bit more expensive with because I play more fetches because of the DRC, of course, but you can also play cheaper versions without fetches at first if you like that. Okay, so the first matchup was Domain Cascade Zoo. This deck just goes so wide and makes a lot of these small tokens, and it's very hard for opponent to deal with this despite them playing the Helix, the Bolt, They're just the one who is defending here the situation, and it's very hard for them to be able to just deal with all of that just with those single removal spells. They didn't have much creatures, so that was a good thing for me. I went for the synthesizer crack. My opponent helix the channel, that was pretty good for them. So I make one my samurai token, prepare for the next turn, try to top deck something to cast my Reckless Bushwhacker, so I did get the bubble from the top, play the castle from my hand, play the Reckless Bushwhacker to be able to attack with everything and end the game immediately. That was it. Okay, so game one against Domain Cascade Zoo ended up pretty fast, pretty quick. Okay, now watch game two. Had to mulligan this, kept a decent 6 cards. I had multiple options here. I decided to go for the channeler first because they usually just play go for the triumph turn 1 and play creature on 2, but they decided to not play creature, probably hold some interaction, and I got to make my tokens and just attack with DRC. I think my opponent kept a too slow hand this time, but actually they were just holding for the Hiratsugu, but my hand was too good this time. I immediately rebuild the board, make 4 more tokens next turn with the Bushwhackers in hand, so I just went for it. My opponent had more single removals, but single removals just don't do the job very well. After 2 single removals, uh, I still was in a good position, and I was thinking about it would be pretty bad if my opponent has the Scion, but I decided to go for the Bushwhacker anyway and try to finish opponent next turn. So put them on 6, but unfortunately they have the Scion, and they now gain 4 life. So I'm not able to play my Magus this turn. I have to kill the Scion and attack for 2, which means my opponent is currently winning the race, so I just play my Magus, try to get back into the game. I'm under 2 turn clock, but maybe it can try to top deck something. So my opponent just goes for the Blossoming Calm, which is enough to secure them the win, give them 4 life. And yeah, there was no top deck at this point to save me, so that was it. That was a second game. In the first match, my opponent being able to get back into the game with Scion and Hiratsugu. But when I'm playing first, it's a lot easier. Okay, so in these situations, I go for the mountain and put Chromatic Star. Uh, Try to find something with my Mishra's Bubble. Didn't get Cool Dota effects here, so I just start playing my Bushwhackers. I have these grenades, which can end the game pretty quickly. My opponent plays the cow. I have the grenade to kill cow. So I go for to kill cow and push 3 damage through with my Bushwhacker. I start with my synthesizer. I get the Bushwhacker from top. So I decide to. My opponent is definitely not trading with Ferrous Rakiric, so I get the 5 damage through here, which is very good with my grenade and the lightning bolt in hand. So I have mana to play everything. I just go for it. Go for the attack. My opponent has Helix, but they don't go for the creature as I expected, but they go for the face. So they didn't even block here. So I just finished them off with either Goblin Grenade or Bolt, and that was the game. Okay, so that was match 1. That was match 1 against the Domain Zoo. We can now go to the match 2. Okay, this it's just so fun to play this deck, keeping this kind of hands. Okay, so I went for the Chromatic Star. I got the Kuldota here, make 3 tokens, find the land, which was pretty fortunate. I play my other Chromatic Star and have 2 Bushwhackers. I think it's so hard for anyone to beat this. It's almost impossible. So my opponent goes for the Raven's Crime. I still have 2 Bushwhackers in hand. I play one of them, threatening to finish the game next turn, even if they have removal. Single removal just doesn't mean much. Like Fatal Push, still 8 damage goes through. Okay, my opponent tries to find a card here. I find Castle, play the Channeler, and play the Bushwhacker. Still another Bushwhacker in hand, and more than enough here to secure the win. Okay, so that was very quick win in game 1 against Mono Black Coffers. They play a huge amount of removal, but just not enough if you have like fast hands like in this situation. So I start with the Channeler. My opponent has the march to immediately get rid of it. I go for the synthesizer first, find the Mishra's Bubble. I go for the Gleeful Demolition here immediately. I make 3 tokens, didn't get the extra land here, and I sack the Mishra's Bubble, look for Force of Despair into their hand. They have another one in hand, so they use it immediately to kill my tokens. Actually, pretty interesting card in this situation. I go for the synthesizer, use the bolt that I got, get 3 more tokens, play the Memnite. I have 2 Goblin Bushwhackers in hand, so pretty good hand again. I attack with everything. They again use some single removal, which is not good enough. So they go for Invoke Despair, but I have more than enough damage here. I just sack Memnite, get 3 more tokens, play the Bushwhacker, attack for 14 damage, and yeah, that is the game. So pretty cool gameplay here. That was win number 2. We are going to go through the wins first, and we'll watch the defeat in the end. Okay, so this was third match. This is third match. Again, starting with Dragon Ray Channeler, hoping to go for the synthesizer next turn. My opponent plays the amulet. I go synthesizer, find the land, which was perfect. Find another mountain here, and use the gleeful demolition to kill their Amulet Titan. And in meantime, set at the top of my library as I like it. I find the Kuldotari bird here, finding me another land from top, so I play the Goblin Bushwhacker from my hand, attack for a lot of damage here on turn 3, while my opponent is still just Azusa and not nearly threatening to win this. I go for the Memnite, make 3 more tokens, and make Bushwhacker to attack with infinite damage here, and that was very aggressive, quick game 1. Amulet was a very good matchup for me so far, mostly because of these gleeful demolitions, just being able to consistently get me a way to kill opponent's Amulet for 1 mana, which was just pretty good all this time. And a lot of these defeats you get with this deck is just not being able to get a second land. You will see how crazy actually it went here. I just wasn't addicted 10 cards to find the land, but didn't find it. And it's really hard when you're just not to get it. I tried to go for try to do everything here to find that land. I used Chromatic Star. I used the Dragon Ray Channeler, Surveil ability, put card into graveyard, draw another with, but just wasn't able to get it. I played the Alpine Moon in this situation, also not getting the Delirium didn't help. I played the Alpine Moon here, but my opponent had the Engineered Explosives to get rid of them. Alpine was pretty cool, but yeah, just explosives was too good in this situation, and me not being able to get the second mana was really bad. My opponent went for Primeval Titan, which is not over, but a bit too late. If I didn't just wasn't able to get this Magus of the Moon earlier. So I was able to sack one of my goblins to kill their Amulet Titan. So they had Azusa plus Dryad, and Vesuva in hand was exactly lethal with all of their abilities. So that was a kill from Titan in game 2. So now match 3, as I said, having Gleeful Demolition in a starting hand helps a lot. I also had Pitting Needles from the sideboard. This can always serve just as an artifact to sacrifice to get tokens. I didn't want to use a Gleeful Demolition on Expedition map, so I just attacked with my Bushwhacker, and now I definitely wanted to kill Amulet immediately, so they just used the Expedition map to find the Urza Saga. Pretty slow hand for my opponent without this amulet, and I just attack with everything. My opponent goes for the block, and I just finished them with Goblin Grenade. That was it. Okay, so that was the win against Amulet Titan, and we can now watch the last game of this league. The last win of this league, and then we'll go to the only defeat. Okay, so in this time I tried Castle Emberet instead of Den of the Bugbear, and in few of these situations I was forced to play it tapped on turn 2 because I play one of Sockenzen and 2 more castles. So I didn't really like it in this situation, but it wasn't too bad. And then it always gets in untapped in the first 2 turns, which are pretty important, but also can be sometimes relevant not entering untapped in the later turns. So I think there are pros and cons for both of these options. Okay, so I went for Bolt there and attack with the Bushwhacker, put my opponent on 2 life. My opponent makes food here and goes for the double life gain. So I just play the Bushwhacker, play the Breach, and recast the Goblin Grenade from my graveyard, which was enough for the win. Also, I could just sacrifice the Bushwhacker, cast the Grenade, and get another card in my graveyard to just replay the Memnite or something. So it was pretty decent breach. If I had a channeler on the field, it gets much better too, and the bubble in the graveyard, of course. So, but it was decent. It was one of the few times I draw it. Didn't get it as often as I would like to trust it properly, but in this situation, it just directly won me the game by recasting the grenade and the Memnite for so pretty good value here. And that's it. Okay, that was first game from this match. I got mulligan to 5 with 1 lander in this situation against Asmo deck. Immediately got the second land, which was cool, and I started off with the channeler. My opponent goes for finale, finds the Asmo, plays the cookbook immediately. I had a gleeful demolition in hand, which and now I kind of needed to use on opponent's cookbook, which was good, but not really what I wanted to do because I needed another of these to use it on my spells too to get those tokens to start attacking, but cookbook was really problematic there, and them just getting the free kills from the goose and the cookbook was just felt too strong. So I went for it, but maybe I should have just um, cast it on synthesizer, make 3 tokens, and I went for it to play the pitting needle on There's a Saga, but my opponent also has the Boseiju, so it did nothing. They were still able to make 2 construct tokens and get the artifact. So they were in too big advantage here, so I just concede the game. At this point, no chance for me to get back into this game, and we can now start the game tree, okay? Game 3 much easier, especially when starting with this kind of hands, when you're able to turn 1 Gleeful Demolition, and then turn 2 Pushwhacker. It's just pretty unstoppable. I don't know, not a lot of decks can really deal with this, just Fury decks. If you're not on Fury, then dealing with this, it's so hard. Okay, I went of course for the Bushwhacker. My opponent has the push here, but single removal is just not good enough. My opponent has the Witterbloom command. Witterbloom command is actually pretty decent. So I go for the Kudolta Rebirth. I make 3 more tokens, make another, find another land. I didn't use the synthesizer this turn. So a lot of these tokens here. My opponent finds Asmo, play the cookbook, and passes the turn. So I just went for the channeler, play the synthesizer, put the other synthesizer into graveyard. With ability, I got the Gleeful Demolition, which I decided again to use on opponent's Underworld cookbook. So they have a harder time on utilizing their cookbooks. Their cookbooks are pretty much the most important card for them. So they had another one in hand, so they were able to play it, gain some life, but I top decked the bolt for the win, and that was it. Okay, so that was the last game, and we now only have to watch the defeat from this league. It was from the 4-color Omelette opponent. I just didn't have as good hand as I had in other matchups. I had a pretty decent one here, starting with Gleeful Demolition on turn 1, but I think I was just stuck on lands. If I just got a second land here, played the second channeler, I would be unstoppable for my opponent, but this way my opponent just was able to play a single removal turn after turn and just catch me up like that. I played everything. I played the synthesizer, the Mishra's Bubble, um, while still attacking with my goblins from turn 1. My opponent continues killing one by one of these goblins. So I just killed the fairy here, play Chromatic Star. But one by one, my goblins die, and my opponent was able to play the Omelette and stabilize, and I'm still struggling to get that mana, looking for it, can't find it, and that was pretty much game over. I played for a few more turns, but still just can't find that land. 42 cards in the library at this point, so I went through 19 cards, no land. 19 cards, just one land. That's pretty sick. So I was able to quit that one and start a second game. Okay, in the second game, I had a pretty good hand. Uh, two lands this time. Turn 1 Chromatic Star into turn 2 DRC Gleeful Demolition, get 3 tokens, so pretty good start. Doesn't get much better than that. But I didn't want my opponent to play the Renin 6 and ping my channeler or token or anything, so I just decided to go for the Pitting Needle on turn 2. Maybe that was the mistake. Maybe I should have gone just Pitting Needle and Demolition. But anyway, I was missing the Bushwhackers anyway, so not much point doing this without Bushwhacker. Okay, I was able to attack with my channeler, create 3 more tokens, I get the Magus of the Moon, but my opponent now has the Risen Reef, and they have the Fury, and the Fury is really the best for this matchup. I also know they also revealed the Solitude with the Oath of Nissa, so it's just a bad situation for me with them having the Reef and Fury, and I'm just not able to kill this Reef, and it's definitely the losing position. So they go for the Solitude to kill my Magus of the Moon so they can use their mana. So just play the Forest and again have the Omnat. And once the Omnat starts working, it's definitely game over. They're gaining too much life, so I can't get back into it. And they also have the Chalice. I continued playing for a few more turns, but that was really it. Okay, so um, just 0 mana spells that gets countered with Chalice and few synthesizers, finding the Bushwhacker, but it wasn't enough. I mean, 3 synthesizers on field, still getting me 3 tokens and 3 cards, but it wasn't enough for this game, so they had too much going on, and that was the game. Okay, so I hope you liked the gameplay, the league, and the decklist. I'm not sure about these breaches. I guess I just draw it like 2 times. One time it was really good, flashbacking the grenade, but it's too little experience with it to see if it's something I want to further test in this deck or not. It was decent. I was looking for it a few times in the late game, try to find it to get back into the game or try to finish off my opponent. So in that way, I kind of, when I thought about it, I really wanted to draw it. Also, it was a bad top deck when I was low on mana. So anyway, it was just a little experiment, just 2 cards replacing two other also very good cards in this deck, and yeah, I'm just going to have to play some more with it to assess it better. And it's definitely breach in mono red, the Dragon Rage channel deck playing Mishra's Bubble and other free spells can be very good. You just have to assess how good. Okay, so that is it. Hope you like the league. Hope you like the gameplay. If you want to help the channel, click like and subscribe. And thank you for it. And that's it for today. Goodbye.